It's probably a good place to talk about drinking and relying on alcohol for confidence in social settings, because I think like I didn't realize how much I relied on it um, as a kind of, what's the word? Yeah, for confidence, Dutch courage, and I think that's like a huge thing for people. It was for me in that picturing going to a social event, a work event, and not having a couple beers to settle my nerves. When I first stopped drinking, mate, that was one of the biggest things that was apparent to me. I put stuff off for like a good 3-4 months after I stopped drinking. I didn't go to any birthdays, any socials, no work events, because the thought of going sober was like terrifying to me. And it was like a rude awakening in that, you're relying on a substance to be in social environments. Like, that's a dependency. That's like an unhealthy relationship with a substance. And I don't, like, it's so normal. I think everyone you speak to would say the same. Like, yeah, alcohol makes kind of, well, not everybody, but a large portion of people you speak to, a large portion of our mates would say the same. Yeah, alcohol, kind of have a couple beers if I'm doing stuff like this or like that. Um, so it's, you don't learn to be confident. You don't learn the social skills or the like to go into a room where you haven't had a few beers to settle the nerves and actually speak to people, have conversations sober, speak to strangers, and that. It's something that you don't do. You don't do it sober, and it's just like it's probably something you should. You shouldn't have to rely on a substance to do something that's so fundamental in terms of like relationships, speaking to people. Like, think about dating, one night stands, like all revolves around alcohol. Like, I don't think I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but know anyone who's had a sober one night stand or like
Yeah.
hasn't gone on the first date with a girl where they've not got pissed on the date, because that would be like, that's terrifying as well.
Yeah.
Something you don't do. But probably you should learn to do that, and you should learn to not have to rely on alcohol to do things like that. Not necessarily one night stands, but dating, speaking, like taking a girl on a date, or going to a social event, going to an event where you don't really know people, you kind of know them, but not really, but being able to go and just have a conversation, start a conversation. That's such a big thing. It's such a valuable skill as well in like general life, work, career, being able to start conversation, hold conversation, speak to people. So that's a big part of it, I think. And I think it's hard for people to see past that. It was for me at first, am I just going to be nervous now for every like social event? Am I just not going to meet the boys because I don't drink and they do? And that was like something that was quite difficult to get past. And I think probably a lot of people also think that's going to be a big issue.
Yeah, something that you have to work on, because what it does, it diminishes any like embarrassment that you have about certain situations, and it's obviously a massive confidence booster. Like, and it is so, it's hard to gain that sort of character development though if you don't test it. Like, to be honest, man, like when I wasn't drinking, or when like not drinking at all, like, I remember I went to my Christmas social event, which is like hundreds of people, man. I tried not to drink, and I just couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't dance with everyone. Felt so out of place. I felt like a bit of a spectacle. Like, it was well obvious that I wasn't drinking, and I just wasn't enjoying myself. And I've done it a few with like, the boys now. Like, I go out with them, and it's not that I feel out of place. I feel fine around them, but I find it hard to find my voice. I'm not got the same amount of confidence with her. Like, if you're not energetic and pissed, it's hard to like butt into a conversation. It's hard to be like the loudest in the room. Do you know what I mean? I go to the quietest in the room, which isn't like me, and and you see everything a lot clearer. It is a hard environment to be around if you try to be sober.
It is. And I think like, speaking now of being 3 years sober, it's never the same. Like, I've never gone out and been completely relaxed as if I'd had 4 beers and like loose. Like, I was quite like, when I was always a good drunk, always just like to have a good fun. I'd always get a bit too drunk, but I'd just like carefree, always up for a laugh, never get like angry drunk, stuff like that. it's not the same. Like, it does change, and it will change when you come, like, when you stop drinking. Like, I've not had that experience since I've stopped, and it's not about, I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing. It's just different, and I get kind of my enjoyment, and I kind of relax and like loosen up in different ways now. But it isn't the same, and I think that's what you just got to come to terms with, and that's what I came to terms with. Sorry, in that I did go out a few times. Started it. It's not that bad. It's still quite good to see everybody. When they all go to the pub after the meal, I'm just gonna head off because when I go to the pub and stay till closing, it's just not for me. It's not the same like environment I want to be in sober. So it is a big adjustment. Mate. It's like it's very different, and you have to like accept that is just the way now.
Precisely. Yeah, as you were speaking, it dawned on me that that's true. That the consequences that you just don't get that anymore. You have to come to terms with the fact that you will now miss out on that aspect of life. If that's what you want to give up and changing, then it really is going to be different. Do you know what I mean?
And like, yeah,